Longines recently revamped the Hydroconquest. They added a true GMT complication to the watch, which I found to be a little unexpected, but I like. I think the true GMT is the most useful or the most helpful of the common or practical complications. I know not everybody agrees with me, but I do think it's rare to find a well-made Swiss true GMT sub $3,000. So this Hydroconquest GMT, I think it really presents some good value for money. And that's not mentioning the nice finishing, the materials, the specifications, and overall sporty design. It kind of comes down just to the movement and the overall package that Longines has produced here. I think they've done some really nice things. So I'd like to thank Exquisite Timepieces for letting me borrow this olive green new release. It really is a sharp watch, and I've been looking forward to seeing this green colorway in person. I think it really looks good. If you're shopping any Longines model or most Swatch Group brands, Exquisite is an excellent family-owned USAAD. I've bought and borrowed from them for years, and I will leave my recommendation in the description below. Now let's begin the review with the fit and finish. I think this watch has a nice 41mm size. It's not too large, it's not too long, but at the same time, it's not too small feeling. One of the things I like about the fit is the fact that it is sub 13mm in overall height, and that thinner profile makes a positive difference in how this wears. And for reference, my wrist is 7.25 inches in circumference. Another positive thing is the fact that the Hydroconquest GMT retained the traditional 300 meters of water resistance, even though it has a GMT complication. Note how this bezel does not display the hours for the GMT, but it's a traditional elapsed minute timer. So essentially the watch is a dive watch, but it has that added benefit of the GMT complication. Now on wrist, this watch is comfortable and it sits pretty flat. I've tried the bracelet variation and that sits flatter, obviously, because this NATO adds some height. But I like the finish work. I enjoy how this looks in natural light, especially with this gloss ceramic bezel insert, and how that plays off of the sunray green dial and the gold tone hands and applied markers. I feel that the aesthetics here are top level, and this is done in a rather uncommon hue of olive green. Now this watch is available on a bracelet, which would be my own preferred way to purchase this model. The NATO strap is comfortable. I think it looks really cool, but like I mentioned, it does add a little bit of height here, and there is no quick adjustment system, which would be standard on the bracelet option. And that bracelet version only carries a $100 premium, which to me as a bracelet fan, it kind of makes it a no-brainer choice. Now Longines also has a color-matched fitted rubber strap option for 2 of the dial colors, but as of yet, it's not available on this olive green dial configuration. Now let's take a closer look at the detail work. I think this looks excellent under the macro lens. The handset is beveled and polished, and the markers have a nice height to them. Like many of you, I really enjoy the gilt-toned winged hourglass logo and the subtle 24 indexing found on the circumference of the dial. It definitely doesn't feel cluttered or intrusive, but at the same time, it's legible and it's present when you need to locate it. The last sharp detail of this watch under the macro lens is the matching date wheel. So the background matches the olive dial, and then the cream tone of the lume will be reflected in that cream printing for the date wheel. So I think that's nice attention to detail. And then there is also the faintest use of blue on the triangular tip of the GMT hand, and then that GMT text that sits below the hand stack. And it's subtle. It's so navy that it nearly appears black. And then lastly, I feel that the addition of the multiple layers of anti-reflective treatment on this sapphire crystal helped the dial look crisper and easier to read at a glance. This ARC is found on both sides of the crystal. Now I'd like to show you the tactile bezel action as well as the lume. Now the grip of the bezel is nice and defined, but it doesn't feel too sharp. This bezel requires a decent amount of torque in order to move, so I don't think there's any way that this gets pushed or knocked out of position on accident. There's just a small amount of backplay in the bezel, and this click spring has a very pleasant sound. As a fan of dive watches, I'm definitely not disappointed with the action on this watch at this price. Now the Lume is likewise very good. It looks like old radium and natural light, which I know some of you will not enjoy, but with this specific olive green color configuration, I don't mind it personally. In low light or no light conditions, it glows a cyan blue tone, and the longevity is pretty decent. The movement within the case is called the L844 caliber. It's made by ETA, which is the movement branch of the Swatch Group, and the Swatch Group owns and operates Longines. This has an anti-magnetic silicon balance spring, a Nivishock shock protection system, and 72 hours or 3 days of power reserve. This vibrates 25,200 times every hour and will have 21 joules. I mentioned it earlier, but the fact that this is a true GMT is a major bonus for me. I think this is more sophisticated and more desirable than the more common and prevalent dual time version of a GMT that comes in a lot of watches that cost sub $4,000. Now let me show you how this operates. The main advantage of a true GMT is just being able to adjust the local hour hand forward or backward without hacking the balance and interrupting the timekeeping. So I think this is perfect for travelers that cross time zones or people that observe daylight savings time. I think this is also easy to adjust the date at the end of an irregular length month. And I think the movement here is a large reason why the watch is at or near the top of its class. Now I'll end with one final thought, and you may disagree with me on this, but I think it is something to consider. This Hydroconquest GMT has a retail price of $2,675, and considering the many positives and very few, if any, weaknesses, I think this is a top option for value for money in a sub $3,000 priced sports watch, but it isn't what I would call affordable. In fact, I would classify this watch as an entry-level luxury watch, and that's where it gets a bit divisive. So depending on where you are in your own collecting journey, you may find this watch a steal of a deal, or you may decide to keep saving for a Tudor or another pre-owned luxury branded watch. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I think the answer is very subjective, but I am content in saying that if you are looking for a great sports watch and you do not want to spend more than $3,000, this one is really hard to beat. So let me know what you think, and let me know if you have any questions. Again, if you are shopping Longines, I recommend Exquisite Timepieces. A link will be below. Thanks for watching today.